Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Backyard Oasis reaches out to older adults who seek knowledge to help them live more thoughtfully, healthily, and happily, who hope to inspire others with their ideas, and who serve their communities in the interest of the greater good. We hope you join us frequently in our pleasant Backyard Oasis for wide-ranging conversations with a diversity of people who are growing older and want to talk about it.
Hi, I'm Denise Schwartz, your host. Okay, let me just say this. I think I may be a bit afraid by the time we end this episode. Why? Well, because my guest today is going to talk about killing and the people who kill. People who kill not just once, but many times. He's written books about murderers. He's had personal conversations with some of them. And so today we're going to hear the stories of killers. What's in their minds that makes them do it? And we're going to talk about the public's obsession with true crime. Okay, so before I begin to talk with my guest, let me tell you a little bit about him. For the last 20 plus years, John Olszewski has corresponded with and even met some of our society's infamous killers. He initially focused on serial killers, but as time went on, he reached out to mass and spree killers and even professional athletes who are incarcerated. He wanted to back up his beliefs about how damaged murderers are. John has a master's degree in counseling psychology, a bachelor's degree in behavioral science, and an associate's degree in criminal justice. He's worked in jails, prisons, mental hospitals, and treatment facilities. He's authored 2 books, The Long, Dark Walk, that was published in 2019, and Serial Shorts, published in 2022. The Long, Dark Walk chronicles his personal journey into the mind of a killer. Serial Shorts is a collection of short stories about real-life serial killers. Okay, so here we go. Hello, John.
Good morning, Denise. How are you?
I'm fine. I think I am a little bit nervous, as I said in my intro, about this topic. But I have to tell you, I talked to a lot of friends, and they're very interested. And that's what I want to talk about later on, about why humans are so interested in people who kill. But first, you've said that your interest in people who kill began when you were young. So could you start by telling us a little bit about your childhood, where you were born, what it was like there, and then what led you to want to learn more about murder?
Well, I grew up in Salem, Mass now. I grew up here as well, moved away for a little bit, but I'm back here now. In terms of how I garnered an interest in it, it's just my first job when I was young, when I started high school, was working in the town library. So for one reason or another, I kind of gravitated to the true crime section, whether it was the perfect place to hide in the stacks when I wanted to goof off, or whatever the reason, I ended up in the true crime section and just started reading some of the books. And then it just kind of lit a fire for me in terms of wanting to and just needing to understand why people do what they do. And it's 30 years later, and I still have that same fire, and I still really haven't answered all the questions, because I don't think you really can, but it still just fascinates me as much then as it does now.
So before we go on to other things that I really wanted to talk about, I'm trying to picture you in the library in Salem, Massachusetts, over in the true crime section, and what the librarians must have thought about that. I mean, was there anything, I hate to ask it, was there anything in your childhood that might have led you to think more about killing or murder? Did you see murders? Was that part of your neighborhood? Or was it a sweet childhood? And if you don't want to answer, that's fine. We'll just guess.
No, I mean, I had a sweet childhood. I went to all private schools. I did know someone who kind of didn't kill somebody, but like helped somebody kind of get rid of a body. But I mean, I didn't know him real
Oh, whoa,
personal.
whoa. Whoa, wait a
That-
minute. Okay, so I haven't really talked to anybody else who has said that. I'm a little bit surprised, but okay. You knew somebody who helped get rid of a body. Well, I had an uncle who was a funeral director, so I guess that's the same thing, but not quite. All right, so you had a nice childhood in Salem, but you just had this interest, and maybe that just comes along with adolescence, or maybe that really does reflect how humans in general are interested in killing. And we'll talk about that later. First, you've done a lot of research. You've talked with people who were in jail. You've talked to people who had committed murder. Who are they? What makes them do that? Let's just go into their minds for a minute.
In terms of the first person I ever talked to was Arthur Shawcross. It was a serial killer in upstate New York. I was in college studying criminal justice, and it was 1994. And 1994 was a big year for serial killers. John Wayne Gacy, who I was absolutely fascinated by to no end, still to this day, was executed in May, and I had always wanted to talk to him. So obviously now I couldn't talk to him. And then that fall in November, Jeffrey Dahmer was murdered in prison. So I kind of talked myself into believing that I'm running out of killers to talk to. By the time I finish college and get in the field, they're all going to be dead. So I felt I needed to, tricked myself, felt I needed to start then and there. So I actually wrote Arthur Shawcross in December of 1994. He's a serial killer from upstate New York. He's since passed away.
What was that name again?
Arthur Shawcross.
Okay, tell us about him and what you did.
He had done 15 years in prison. He murdered a little boy and a little girl in Watertown and did 15 years, and they paroled him early. And then he went to Rochester, and he ended up killing, it was, I think, 12 or 13 prostitutes.
Oh my gosh.
So he would be the first one I wrote. I think we exchanged maybe, I think it was like 15, 16 letters maybe. His case interested me because I've always been fascinated by the insanity, verdict. It goes, it really never happens. It's used a lot, but never really works out. So he actually tried it, and it fascinated me because I was about to start taking the class, The Human Brain, and he had a cyst in the anterior part of his brain. It's the part that controls emotion. So he actually had a doctor, Dr. Dorothy Lewis, which I think HBO made a documentary on her a couple of years ago. I would end up talking with her as well. And she defended him and said that his response, whatever it is, emotionally, anger, sadness, would be like 10 times that of a normal person. So she kind of explained his, the rage, basically, that he'd be able to take a life. And then he had a history of head trauma when he was young as well. So that kind of just got me going on the mitigating circumstances. I'm like, okay, well, this is starting to explain maybe why somebody could do what they did. And it just made me want to get into it more, talk to more people, and see if there's a lot of these traits are common with them.
Are there?
There definitely are. That's why in the book I do the 10 background factors and what I did with those. At first,
let's talk about those a little bit. Yeah.
At first, when I started writing to the killers and stuff, it was mainly serial killers. That's always been kind of the biggest fascination of mine. But obviously, after time, there's not endless supplies of them. So I started to write to other famous murderers. I call them single event homicides.
I just want to say we're glad that there's not a big supply of serial killers out there, John.
There's more than you think, though. There's more than you think.
We'll get to that later. That's where we start having the nightmares. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
So, I did the background factors, and what I wanted to do was prove, we obviously know that somebody that takes a life has to be damaged in some way. So these background factors will prove that to the best of my knowledge, because obviously somebody's not honest or there's not enough resources. Right. I can't find them out 100%. So to the best of my knowledge, I put the killers in these different categories and did a percentage of everyone I talked to, how many percent were fit in this category. So then what I did after that is I pulled all the single event homicides, because my theory was a multiple murder is going to be even more damaged than a single event murder. So I pulled all the percentages and they all went up. So it backed up my theory that they're even more damaged than a single event homicide.
What were some of those categories?
Physical abuse, sexual abuse, substance abuse, mental health issues. Um, God, what else? I can't think of them all offhand.
So, and most of those were related to that person's childhood, because I would be thinking that that would come up a lot.
Yeah.
Rage against something that happened in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that to be true?
Yeah. I mean, it's when you look at the way I look at things is like we all know people. Obviously, if you read the book, you'll see these background factors and be like, well, I know somebody that was physically abused, or I know somebody, or I was sexually abused. People will come out and say that. I didn't turn into a killer, but what we have to realize is everybody's different. Everybody's brain
Sure.
chemistry is different, so people react differently to things. Some people can get through things, and they can do it. Other people can't. That's going to linger in their mind. It's going to affect them and for their whole life, and it'll cause trouble for them, and they just can't get through it.
So let's be clear. You started by writing to people who were incarcerated,
Yes.
right? And then did you ever get to meet some of those people?
Well,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I ended up working in the prison system. My first job was at Shirley Max, the Supermax, and then I was at Walpole for a bit. I've worked at Essex County House of Corrections, which is near me, Middleton Jail. So I've pretty much met at least 80% of the big name murderers in Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh, John. I'm not sure that's something that I would want to say a whole lot, but I know it's your work, so I get it. So let's look at that a little bit more. What was it like? Let's say there you are in jail. There's someone who has killed several people, and you're going to talk to that person. First of all, how did you feel doing that? Were you a little bit nervous? Were you uncomfortable, or were you okay with it?
The first time or two.
Yeah, give me an example, sure.
Yeah, if you've never been in a prison, and most people haven't, be thankful for that. It's like even if you go in as a worker, it's like that first time you go in and the steel boat doors shut, the bars shut, everything shuts behind you, and you can't turn and go. You're kind of stuck there. It's like it causes anxiety, and then obviously you start seeing people in there, finding out who people are. At first, it can be, but as like anything, you get used to it.
Right.
It's all about knowing how to talk to a person.
Well, how did you know how to talk to someone who has killed several people? How did you start?
You have to be straight up with them. That's the big thing in prison. It's like your word and honesty means everything. So if I don't like you, I could say I can't stand you, and it's like that'll get you more clout than pretending, because they will read right through you. And if you're bullshitting, they're going to know it. And then there's no respect for you. So they'd rather hear you be like, yeah, you're an asshole, pardon my French. But, it's like they'd rather hear that than you being upfront with them.
And there's so much I want to ask you. Sorry, I'm talking over you. But so is that what you did? Say, for instance, did you walk in and say, if you had been able to talk to Jeffrey Dahmer, whose story I think has chilled almost everyone who's heard about it, if you were able to walk in and see him, would you just say, look, Dahmer, I don't like anything you did. I don't like you as a person, but I am curious about you. Why did you kill people and then eat parts of their bodies? Why? I mean, is that what you mean by being straightforward? Or what would you have said?
With him, I wouldn't have used that approach. It's like, it depends the type of person. Obviously, going in, I know most of the people ahead of time, because obviously this is something that's fascinated me. So before I'd meet these people, I kind of know who they are, what they're about. So the approach might change. For the vast majority of inmates, I'd use that straightforward approach. Someone like Dahmer, a serial killer gets so hardened. That's why a lot of times when you watch TV shows, a cop walks in and they start screaming at him, tell me. It's like, that is not going to work with a serial killer, because they are so hardened by everything. It's you need to be more on their level. Like a Dahmer you would sit down with and be like, hey, this is fascinating to me. I kind of, can you like walk me through it? And, I want to know more. You kind of got to get them to feel you're on their level with them. If you sit there and yell at them, be like, I think you're an asshole for what you did, it's like he's going to shut off completely.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. That sounds do you have any other examples you could tell us? Tell us about one person that comes to mind And maybe just give us a little bit about what you can say about that person's background or what trauma caused that person to get to the point where they do become sort of monstrous. Like, I do believe you that what other people say, that most of us have the ability to kill, but we have ways in which, that's not going to surface for us.
Yeah.
But is there one person that you could talk about and give us sort of a whole story?
In terms of one that stands out to me, or one that
one that stands out.
Well, there's different people in terms of, I guess you could say I get sympathetic towards some of them, because once you do get into their case history and you see how they grew up and everything, I guess I can give you two examples of one we'll see. I used to talk to Gary Ray Bowles. He was a serial killer in Florida. He got executed. I wrote him right up till the time he was executed. And if you ever saw the movie Monster on Elaine Wuornos, he was like the male version of her. He grew up in a dysfunctional home. Father had left when he was young. The mother was bringing in new guys all the time. And finally, one guy, he was abused, and one guy didn't want him there. And the mother didn't want to lose the money the guy's bringing in. So basically booted him out. He, just like Elaine Wuornos, he was on the streets at like 12, 13. He had to support himself by prostituting himself. And then he would, years later, kill men that were gay that were picking him up. But he would always say, "I'm not gay." But he would pick up the men. And it's, when you read a story, obviously that's the quick version of it. But someone like that, you read it and I'm like, this guy had no chance at all. It's like, when you're going through that at such a young age, you're on the streets at a young age, it's like, that's the chances of coming back from that are pretty remote.
Pretty slim.
Yeah, and it's no surprise how it ended up. And I think a lot of people might go that way. Maybe not the murdering, but you'd probably start stealing and doing other things and end up in prison.
You have seen another side of these folks, some of them anyway. What can we do? What can we do? You said there were red flags and we should be more aware. We'd be surprised at how many people who are out there appear to be just everyday people, but really they have this potential. What can we do? I mean, we don't have a healthcare system or a mental health system that looks at things like this, and maybe there are reasons for it. I don't know. I mean, you're the expert. I'm not.
The system's broken. The system is a joke, honestly. And again, I do sound sympathetic to them all. Some people might not like that, but in terms of serial killers that I spend a lot of my focus on. But to me, they're so damaged. Like, if you take Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, the man tried to get the insanity defense and they said he was sane. This is a man that's frying penises in a pan and eating them. It's like, if that's not the poster child for insanity, who is? But the thing is, the McNaughton rule is what defines insanity. So if you knew what you were doing is wrong, you can't be insane. You have to not know what you're doing. But the thing is, this came into play hundreds of years ago. And at that same time, when someone would say, "I hear voices telling me to do something," what would they do? They'd drill a hole in their head to let the evil spirits come out. They lobotomized them. And it's like, but obviously now, hundreds of years later, we're like, okay, well, now we know that there's a clinical reason why they hear voices. They have schizophrenia.
Right.
So now we don't drill holes. You treat them differently. But the whole insanity thing, you haven't updated that. And it's obviously, okay, the person could know what they're doing is wrong, but we've come to find out people have addictions, people have impulsivity disorders. An alcoholic gets in a car, they know what they know it's wrong, but they can't control themselves because you're under the influence of alcohol now. You get in the car and you cause an accident, someone dies. Is it their fault? Of course it's their fault, but also it's not their fault too, because they are under the influence of a substance. They wouldn't have intentionally done that had they been sober.
So does killing someone become an addiction? Can you be addicted to killing and hurting?
I always say that. That's a comparison I give. Right now I work in 2 different drug and alcohol treatment centers, and there is a commonality. I do think a lot of them get addicted to it, and they'll admit it to you. And the thing is, if you look at it, it's very similar to a drug or alcohol addiction. Like, the first time I think Jeffrey Dahmer murdered someone at 17, then it was like 6 years later before the next one. And then you'll see a lot of times that's the biggest gap between the first and the second. Then between two and three, it's
Oh,
going to go down to maybe a year. Then 3 and 4, now it's 6 months. And it keeps going down and down because they need it more and more. They need it more frequently. And then ultimately, that's what gets them caught because now you're leaving less time
oh.
between each murder. So you're going to slip up because it's not being planned as thoroughly as it should be.
Do you think there's like a chemical component to that addiction? Like, have you talked to anybody who described what it was like for them to kill once and then twice and what it did for them physically?
Well, they do have that addiction. They do have urges. I talked, and it's similar again to addiction too. A lot of them will say after they kill someone, they go through a depressive cycle. They have thoughts about killing
Oh,
themselves, turning themselves in, but ultimately they don't do it. And then the urges come back and they go and kill again. And that's very similar to an addict. An addict in recovery will be doing well. And then when they relapse, they go through a depressive cycle. Shit, I screwed it up. Well, I'm going
yeah, yeah.
hardcore now. And then they go off the rails. So it's very similar to that as well. They do feel, I used to talk to Michael Ross, who was in Connecticut. It's the only execution in New England in the last like 60, 70 years. He was a serial killer, graduated Cornell University, Ivy League education. He killed,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 6 in Connecticut and 2 in New York. And he would talk about these interviews you can find online with him that it's just unbelievable to listen to him. He's so forthcoming about it. And that's most of the serial killers are. That's why I think it's stupid to kill them because you can learn so much from them if they're
Oh,
willing
good.
to talk about it. And he
Is it like
was,
would that be like a confession?
yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
when you're talking about it, you are confessing, even
yeah,
though I'm not talking about so that, you don't have, so that you don't go to prison or anything. You're already there.
yeah.
But is it sort of like there's a need to confess these things, to
Well,
tell people about this?
they all have their different reasons. Some of them want to talk about it because they love the attention and they want to see the look on your face when you say
Ah,
something horrific. Other ones talk like Michael would do. I think he talked because he wanted to learn about himself. As with Jeffrey Dahmer, he would say it. They kind of don't understand why they did what they did, so he'd open up, talk about it to people to try to have them help him understand why he did what he
oh
did.
my. You never really think about that.
No, and
That folks who do this might be wanting help at the same time.
yeah, and
Well, I
Michael,
guess you do. There's a lot of that, yeah.
yeah, Michael Ross would he would talk if you again you can Google him, listen to some interviews. He would at one point mentioned he has no conscience, and he's like, I know I should feel bad about what I did, but I don't. And he's like, I know that sounds horrible, and he goes, that's what bothers me because I want to know why I can't feel. I feel bad because I can't feel, but he's like, that's just how it is. I just don't feel for what I
I
did. And then
feel
he
it.
would also talk about the urges he had, and that's he petitioned the court to execute him.
Right.
He went for years. They finally did it, and it's like because he said for him, he still has the urges, and now he's being locked up behind bars, and he can't act on those urges. Thank God.
Oh,
But for him, it's torture. He goes, "I'd much rather be dead than have to live with this." And that's the thing. We try to be a humane society, but it's like you lock him up, and it's like if he is truly suffering, if he truly has mitigating circumstances, what can we do? And that's why I think you need to talk to him. When the state of Florida executed Ted Bundy, Robert Ressler wrote
mm.
this, who's the man that coined the term serial killer, ex FBI agent. He said at the time when Florida executed Ted Bundy, it was either between 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 million it cost the state of Florida to execute
Oh
him.
my
And
gosh.
he's like, with that money, you could have built a facility somewhere in the United States that housed all the serial killers. And then that way you could sit there and study them all day and learn from them so you can figure out how we can prevent it in the future. But unfortunately, the way the system's set up, you don't want to learn from people. You get them, you throw them in a cell, slam the door,
Yeah.
and forget about them. But that's
Do
not
you
going to
think
help
that's,
us.
John, do you think that's part of what you want to do? You want to learn from them so that you can talk to people about how we could help them?
Yeah, totally. It's again, it's fascinating to understand, and it's as it is with any type of therapy in the field. I go, if you can get them to understand what they did, it's a breakthrough for them, breakthrough for me. It makes you feel good if you're helping them to
Help
understand
them,
what they
yeah.
did, and then of course they'll maybe start to feel their actual remorse and see that the hurt and the pain that they did cause.
You know, I'm really off course here, but I wanted to say something when that one person was saying, you know, I don't know why I do this. I wish I did. I don't have a conscience. I wish I could understand it. Just by saying, I wish I could understand it, doesn't that imply that that person does have a conscience? Okay, maybe that's something we need to think about for another. But that's what came to mind. Like, but maybe you do have a conscience if you're wishing you could understand yourself. Anyway, that's a fascinating part. I never thought about that. And I hope that what you're doing through your books and your lectures and your conversations can help some of these people. But that brings up this other point, and then we can move on a little bit. Do you think that even through conversation and getting help and beginning to understand yourself, if you're a person who has killed people, do you think you really can be rehabilitated? I think there's another word to use now. Do you think it could really happen? Or is it just too much?
Again, I think it's on the individual. Obviously, a serial killer I think he could be rehabilitated, maybe if they've only killed 3 or 4, not 25.
Oh my
maybe
gosh.
They could, but even if they could, if you've killed 3 or 4 people, I don't think you can be let out, because you do got to be punished for what you did. I've talked to people that have committed a single murder, and have gotten out, and there's some of them I'm like, I am totally okay with. I think they've learned from what they did, you know, as best they could, corrected their mistakes while in prison, bettered themselves, and I believe they'll be okay and won't reoffend. But then there's other people I've talked to that I can't believe they've let out.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to know about that, John. I'll have nightmares if they're out and about still.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to focus on us instead of the killer at this point. Why do you think we are so fascinated with stories about murder and killing? What is it inside the rest of us humans who want to pay attention? I mean, I have to tell you right now, I was reluctant to do this a little bit because I didn't want to hear so much. But I must say, I would like to just go on and on and on. What's inside humans that makes us interested in
It's
killing?
Because, like I said, I think it's in all of us, and I think most people are aware of that. You know, everybody through your life, you probably had a moment or two you lost it, road rage or anger, and you didn't do something, but you might have thought about it. And it's like, I think everybody sees that potential in them. They're like, wow, you know, maybe that time if my buddy wasn't there and grabbed me, I might have did something I shouldn't have done. Or
Wow.
I think it's in there for everybody. So everybody kind of wants to see what it's like. It's like the animal at the zoo. You go there. What are the most popular things when you go to a zoo or an aquarium? If you're at a zoo, it's the lions and the tigers. Why is that? They're the most dangerous. Go to an aquarium. What's the most popular thing? The sharks. Again, the most dangerous. People are drawn towards that.
Do you think you have it in you?
I won't answer that.
I knew you were going to say that, but I did have to ask because, well, I mean, you are a human too, you know. You might have that also.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you something else as we wind down.
Okay.
What do you do when you're not talking about killing and murderers and things like that? What's the other side of you?
Does take a lot.
You're laughing.
Well, because I do. It's my downtime. I like to watch the true crime documentaries.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. But
oh dear,
I read the books as well. But no, I do. I mean, I follow music and I follow sports, so I go to a lot of concerts and games. So it's not in my head 24/7, but it is in there a high percentage of the time.
Well, I'm glad to see you laughing and smiling. You look like a pretty normal person to me, John.
You know, this is a big thing with society now. You get desensitized to things. You know, I say that about everything. Like video games is a big thing, and I think that's why you see a lot of, you know, mass shootings by the younger kids in schools now, because this generation's been desensitized. We grew up playing Pac-Man. They're growing up playing Call of Duty games where I look at you and that's the graphics of that real, and you put a gun in your hand and you pull the trigger. It's like you desensitize a person to doing that. If you do it enough times, now if you put a real gun in your hand, it's like automatic. You pull the trigger. I'll argue that with anybody. And I mean, it's the same thing with my work. Obviously, first few times you talk to somebody, you're a little anxious. Now it's commonplace for me because you do something enough times, you hear things enough times, now you're desensitized to it.
How has it changed you, the work you've done?
it makes me more leery. Like when I go out, I always don't like to have my back to, I have to have my back to the wall. I don't like having my back to people. If people walk behind me and I don't see them come out on the other end, I'll turn around to see what's going on. Just that's from working in prisons and stuff. You just kind of always keep an eye where everybody is.
Do you assess the people who are around you
I
to see
always
if any
do
of those
that.
characteristics?
I always do that. I'll make my friends laugh. Someone will come in and I'll start profiling them. Like, this guy, he's got his mother buried under his house.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you're not looking at me right now, are you?
No.
No. Do no assessment. Okay, so I really love this. We're running out of time. I want to do another one with you, and I hope you say yes,
Yeah,
because
totally.
after this, I know I'm going to have lots of people say, but why didn't you ask him this? And why don't we find out about this? But before we go, John, I did talk about your two books in the introduction, but tell us about them briefly again, how people can find them. I'm sure it's the usual places.
Yep.
And then tell us what's next in store for you.
Okay. So my first book came out in 2019, The Long Dark Walk, and it's basically half autobiography, half research, how I got into it, who I talked to, what I learned. And then as I said, I do the 10 background factors. Got to make myself sound a little smart at some point. So throw the stats in there to prove what I was saying, that multiple murderers are even more damaged. And then my second book is completely different, Serial Shorts. That came out 2022, and that's 7 short stories on 7 real-life serial killers. So I use facts but make a story, so it's actually both fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah, that sounds interesting to me, how you turned it into some fiction, too.
Now, in terms of future projects, I am almost done with the sequel to The Long Dark Walk, which is going to be called Still Walking in the Dark. I'm hoping my publisher actually passed away. I self-published it, so I have to find a new publishing house for that one. I'm hoping it'll be out the beginning of the year. I probably have maybe 20 to 25 pages left in it, and I'm going to have all new killers that I've talked to.
Wait a minute. That just sounds so strange. You're not asking for other people to go out and do things just so they can be in your book.
No,
Come on, John.
There's enough of them out there. So there's 60 new ones.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, there's 60 new ones that weren't in the first book that I've since talked to.
What?
So, yeah. Yep. So I'm going to have them in the new book. And then I have a sequel I'm working on for the Serial Shorts as well, but that's kind of been put on the back burner. I'll have the sequel to The Long Dark Walk out first. And then in October, I'm going to have my podcast come out, the first season, it's going to be the same title, The Long Dark Walk. 6 episodes the first season. I have 3 guests. I've already recorded them all. I just got to do the intros and the exits. So the first season, I'm going to have Randy Herman, who was featured on Hulu. There's a documentary called Dead Asleep. He said he was sleepwalking when he killed his roommate. That was his defense. So you have him doing. Is he alive? Yeah, he's in prison.
So he recorded this.
Well, I have them call me from prison, and I record it live. I interview him live. So this is what's going to make this podcast special. Most podcasts
really different.
You're going to have people just reading the facts. And Ted Bundy was born here, and then he did this. I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm having Ted Bundy call in today. So,
oh my gosh,
I have him. I interview him. I interview his wife, and then he has a new doctor because he's trying to get retried. So I have the new doctor I interview as well. And then I have Barbara Rogers, who was featured. There's a show called what is it? The Devil You Know. She was featured on a season of that. She was part of a cult that believed that aliens live among us that are really lizards. And then she killed her boyfriend. So I have an interview with her. And then the third interview is with Ryan Sumstead. He was a West Point graduate, genius IQ, 140 plus IQ, degree in engineering, and he strangled his wife. He's in prison in Texas, so he's the third interview. And then the second season I need to get right into because I already have all 6 episodes booked of who people saying they'll do it.
Oh my gosh, John.
I'm hoping to get that out in the spring, early spring, maybe late winter even.
It is fascinating, but I honestly have to say I wish you didn't have this subject matter to talk about and write about.
I know. It's true. There's and like I said, there's more out there than you know. It's like obviously researching it. serial killers, most people know like a couple big names, top 5 names, but I've talked to over 90 serial killers, and to me, most people would not believe that there's 90 serial killers
No.
around to talk to, but there are.
I have to ask you just, I think, one more question, but there's
Yep.
always one more after the one more. So if I'm in a crowd and say there are 100 people around me, do you think there's like a serial killer in that group of 100?
There's definitely a sociopath. Like if I remember the stats,
yeah.
1 in every 30 people are a sociopath. So you'll have a sociopath.
No.
And another stat I remember, I think in the course of your lifetime, I think it is you walk by, is it 5 or 6 murderers through the course of your lifetime, and you won't know it's someone that's killed somebody.
Okay, well, usually I know how to end an episode, but I'm not sure now. I'm hoping that if I can't sleep tonight, you did give me your phone number. I'm going to call you and say, thanks a lot, buddy. Hey, and one other thing.
Yeah.
I hope at some point, I mean, this is fascinating. It really is. And we should be aware. And I hope we can come up with some answers so how we can help some people get through these horrible things that they do, have them find their consciences, have them make amends if they can. I don't know. It seems to me, if we look at history, people have been doing this to each other all the time.
Yep.
So maybe we can, maybe we can't. I hope that you find a lot of value and in doing the work you're doing, and that you find good in it if you can. I look forward to talking with you again. I hope the next time we talk, you'll be able to say that you've started to do gardening or something, and that you won't be doing this anymore, because I'm worried about you. You seem like you're really doing okay, but wouldn't it be nice instead to go out and work in the garden all day?
I guess so. I'm not a summer person though. I'd rather go out in the winter when it's nice and cool.
And go skiing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, this was really fascinating, and I appreciate you doing this so much. Best of luck.
Thank you.
And
I am doing
I hope we speak again.
the lecture at the
Yes.
school too. If you had that in the intro. My
Oh,
book,
yes, right.
the books too. I used to have them on Amazon. I did pull them, but I have them on Etsy right now. I got to put them back up on Amazon. But once I have the podcast up, I'm going to have a whole website and everything to be able to get them on that as well. But for now, if people are interested, they're on Etsy.
I can guarantee they'll be interested.
Yep.
I know I certainly was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope to come back again.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819. If you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.